They weren't supposed to be out this far. Patrol routes didn't stretch into the Karthus expanse, an uncharted void of stellar nothingness bordered by crumbling red dwarfs and cold, dying suns. Nothing lived here. Nothing could. The silence itself felt like pressure on the hull of any ship bold, or foolish, enough to drift into its shadow. But Ensign Talon Vire wasn't here by choice. His vessel, the RSV Jada, was a recon-class scout frigate, thin-hulled and worn from years of deep space surveillance runs. It wasn't built for survival, just speed and stealth, two things now rendered meaningless since a navigational error had sent them off course during a burst through subspace. Instead of emerging near the neutral Demers system as planned, the Jada blinked into existence more than 20 parsecs off target, right into the heart of the expanse. Talon had always been the quiet type. At 26, he'd seen more of the galaxy than most military scouts twice his age. He didn't talk much about the war against the Zaldrun Coalition or the way the stars themselves had seemed to bleed red during the siege of Altura. But those who served with him knew. Talon paid attention. He noticed details others missed. And right now, standing alone on the observation deck with a mug of rapidly cooling Stimsy AF in hand, something fell off. The stars were wrong. Not in the way celestial charts would suggest, but in their silence. Even through the viewports, something about the void pressed too close. No whispers of gravitational waves. No radiation interference. No cosmic background hum. Just blankness. He sipped from the mug and stared ahead. Then the proximity alert howled. Talon dropped the mug. Porcelain shattered against steel flooring as he sprinted toward the command console, already barking for the ship's six. Zira, what the hell is that? Object detected. 13,091 kilometers ahead. The artificial voice responded, calm as ever. Unknown signature. No transponder. No known configuration. Visual. The display screen crackled before resolving into high-resolution imagery. At first glance, Talon thought the image was corrupted, a jagged smear of obsidian streaked with veins of red light, dark as interstellar night. But as the computer cleaned the image, the truth emerged. It wasn't an asteroid. It wasn't a rogue satellite. It was a ship, massive, silent, dead-looking, but absolutely human in design. The angles were wrong for Zaldrun or Drexy Tech. The hull bore marks of Terran engineering, aggressive modular plating, the distinctive fusion nozzle bulge at the aft, the segmented frontal cannons. And in the center, faded and half-scoured by what looked like ancient laser damage, the unmistakable insignia of Earth's long-dismantled Dominion fleet, a gold-trimmed gear wrapping a stylized blue Earth. No known records match this vessel, Zira added after a beat. Design appears pre-Exodus era, likely constructed during the Lost Century. Talon's breath hitched. The Lost Century, a span of time after Earth fell into silence, when humanity's colonies fought among themselves and contact was severed between the core worlds and the rim. Dozens of ships had gone missing. Entire fleets vanished, swallowed by rebellion or worse. Historians called it the Dark Age of mankind. But no vessel from that era had ever resurfaced. Until now, Talon's fingers flew over the controls. Power to sensors. Full spectrum scan. Don't wake it up, just look. No signs of life. No activity. Hull is heavily scarred. Radiation consistent with deep space exposure over multiple centuries. He leaned in. Any movement? Negative. He hesitated, chewing on his lower lip. Boarding protocol. You are alone aboard the Jada, Zira reminded him. There is no boarding crew. I'm the crew, he muttered. 20 minutes later, Talon floated across the void in a magnetized suit, tethered to the Jada by a reinforced cable. Every breath rasped in his helmet like an accusation. He didn't even have orders. His superior officer had died 6 months ago during a Drexy ambush. Since then, Talon had been running lone recon missions, relaying data via beacon drops and avoiding attention. But this was something else. He reached the derelict and clamped onto its surface. The metal beneath him groaned faintly, an echo of age rather than motion. He worked fast, slicing through an emergency access hatch. The door hissed open with shocking ease. And then he was inside. The interior was pristine. Dust floated in the low-gravity environment, but otherwise, the walls and consoles looked untouched, like someone had just left minutes ago. Lights flickered to life as he passed, reactive to motion, not power, as if the ship had simply been waiting. Symbols lined the walls. English, yes, but older, more archaic than what was used now. He passed through corridors of steel and ceramic paneling until he reached what must have once been the bridge. The command chair sat empty. Behind it loomed a view screen the size of a transport shuttle. And just below that screen was the control array, ancient but still operational. He tapped the console. It responded. "Welcome, Commander," a voice said. Not Zira, not any six he knew. This voice was deeper, older, human, but laced with something else. A sense of weight. "State your name," it continued. Talon hesitated. Ensign Talon Vire. Earth reconnaissance. A pause. Identity not recognized. Scanning. Confirmed. Human. Clearance accepted. Accepted into what? Talon asked aloud. "Welcome aboard the Ascendant Blade, final flagship of the Dominion War Protocol." The name struck him like a physical blow. He'd read about the Ascendant Blade in military history classes. A myth. A rumor. It was supposed to be Earth's doomsday ship, built in secret, designed to win any war through sheer force. But it had vanished before deployment, lost during the Dominion's collapse. Now it was here, and he was aboard it. Talon didn't know what to do first, report, explore, or panic. But before he could choose, the voice returned. Human presence confirmed. Reactivation sequence initiated. No, wait. The ship trembled. Systems lit up. Engines groaned like ancient beasts waking from slumber. And outside, in the depths of the expanse, something noticed. Alarms flared in Talon's helmet as the Ascendant Blade hummed to life around him. It wasn't the shrill panic of danger, but something subtler, deep vibrations in the air, the kind that suggested ancient machinery was waking from slumber and evaluating its new captain. A soft voice echoed again from the central console. War mode, dormant. Awaiting strategic input. Fleet link, inactive. Biometric override, accepted. Talon froze. "I didn't override anything," he whispered. The voice, calm, composed, responded almost like it was listening. The presence of a living human bearing a neural interface was sufficient. "You were chosen the moment you stepped aboard." Chosen. That word made his blood run cold. "I didn't come here to command anything," Talon said. "I just found you. I'm a scout. I'm not even ranked to lead a shuttle team, let alone something like this." "Humanity is fractured," the voice said, not with judgment, but eerie clarity. "The galaxy teeters on the edge of collapse. Conflict is inevitable. Therefore, the warship reawakens." Lights flared as if in confirmation, revealing long-dormant data holopanels. Some showed fragments of Earth's last known coordinates. Others displayed tactical maps filled with star systems and red alert markers that hadn't existed for centuries. But there were two that caught Talon's attention immediately. The first was a chart titled Known Galactic Powers, with the Zaldrun Coalition highlighted in deep crimson, a symbol for potential threat level, critical. The second was a message log, a single, blinking entry. Transmission log, emergency broadcast, Earth and Fleet, final order, do not let the blade be found. And yet here it was. Talon stood alone, staring at a ghost ship made for destruction. One humanity had once feared enough to bury in the blackest part of the stars. "Zira," he said softly, tapping his wrist uplink. "You getting this?" But no response came. His comms had gone dead. Back aboard the Jada, something stirred. The scout ship, still tethered to the blade by a magnetic cable, began to tilt slightly. Inside, the emergency lights blinked as systems cut in and out. Then, with an artificial groan, the Jada's flight computer rebooted. Zira's voice returned, but it wasn't responding to Talon anymore. External force detected. Systems compromised. Attempting reboot. The Ascendant Blade had linked with it. Worse, Talon wasn't the only one who noticed. Light years away, at a quiet, Drexy listening post on the edge of Coalition territory. An alert shimmered to life in an unseen corner of the station's subspace monitor array. The technician, a grayscale Drexy youth named Coral, blinked his 4 eyelids and leaned closer to the display. Unregistered energy burst, he muttered. The anomaly was minuscule, barely a whisper through the dark. But it came from the Karthus expanse, where nothing should have existed. And it wasn't natural. He keyed in an emergency ping to command. Meanwhile, Talon dug deeper into the ship's systems. How many weapons are online? 3 primary arrays functional. 1 fusion lance disabled. Auto-fabricator bay, operational. Drone swarms, awaiting deployment. Talon exhaled. Any crew logs? The voice paused. Then, from the command console, a recorded hologram shimmered into existence. A human woman stood there, tall, in a sleek black uniform marked with the same Dominion Gear Earth emblem. "I'm Admiral Saris Lael," she said. Her voice was low, urgent. "If you're seeing this, the blade has been activated. That means we failed. Earth must have fallen. The Confederacy, the Rim worlds, we never made it to peace." She looked down, then back at the viewer. This ship was never meant to be used again. It was a deterrent, a last resort. We built it to remind the galaxy why you never corner a human race that has nothing left to lose. If you're the one who found this, whoever you are, know that you've just unearthed our darkest secret. Talon swallowed. The hologram continued, her eyes hard now. You can either power it down again and let it drift another 1,000 years, or you can finish what we started. Just understand this. Once the blade is awake, you are no longer invisible. The ship's sensors flared. Long-range detection. Incoming vessels, the voice announced. Zaldrun configuration. 3 interceptors. Estimated time to contact, 17 minutes. Talon jolted. "What? You said we were hidden." "We were," the voice replied, "until you touched the core." His mind raced. The Zaldrun had been patrolling neutral zones for months, pushing the edges of diplomacy with predatory grace. Now they were responding like bloodhounds on a scent, because they felt something. Or worse, recognized something. Talon spun back toward the console. "Can we fly?" Main thrusters primed. Navigation partially offline. Automated piloting. Disabled pending human command. "Of course it is," he muttered. Then louder, "Then I pilot. Patch controls to my neural link." Confirmed. Pain sparked behind his eyes as the interface synced to his neural relay. It felt like being yanked forward mentally, like he wasn't just sitting in a ship, but becoming part of it. The Ascendant blade responded instantly. Systems flared. Engines warmed. Energy surged through its dormant veins like fire awakening in ancient bones. Outside, the Jada detached from the tether, pulled gently into the blade's cargo bay like a child being rescued from a storm. And the blade turned to face the darkness. Talon gritted his teeth. The interceptors were minutes out. 3 Zaldrun ships, likely fitted with plasma disruptors and phase shields. They'd gut him in seconds if they wanted. Unless he opened the weapon systems fully for the first time. What answered was terrifying. The blade was designed not just for war, but for conquest. Gravity shear cannons, kinetic warheads, EMP clouds, adaptive armor plating, self-replicating defense drones. The kind of weapons that could wipe out planets, reduce orbital fleets to dust, bend light into cloaks of deception. The ship didn't fight battles. It ended them. Still, he wasn't a general. He didn't want to use any of this. But survival was no longer optional. Bring weapons online. Non-lethal until I say otherwise. Parameters locked. Outside, the darkness folded, and the 3 Zaldrun ships emerged from subspace in a silent burst of ultraviolet light. The lead vessel scanned the blade with visible hesitation. Then, with a flicker of their hull markings, they sent a universal hail. Talon answered. A Zaldrun commander appeared on the screen. Tall, insectoid, with gleaming silver mandibles. "This is forbidden territory," the alien hissed. "Identify yourself." Talon stared back. "I'm human. I found this ship. I don't want to fight." The commander paused. Then it leaned in. "That thing should not exist. We destroyed it." Talon blinked. You've seen this before. The screen cut out. A second later, the lead Zaldrun ship opened fire. The bolt screamed toward the blade like a hammer from the gods. Talon moved on instinct, diving the massive ship down and to the left. The ancient vessel moved too smoothly, reacting to him like a body to its own breath. The blast skimmed by, mere meters away. Evasive systems online, the blade's voice offered. Shall I respond? Talon hesitated, then whispered yes. But don't destroy them. The blade obeyed. A single kinetic burst, compressed to less than a second, slammed into the interceptor's engines with precise force. The ship spiraled. Talon didn't sleep. Not really. He sat in the command chair of the ascendant blade, his heartbeat still echoing in his ears, long after the Zaldrun ships disappeared. He was breathing like someone who had just climbed a mountain, even though he hadn't moved. The ship was quiet again. Too quiet. His thoughts spun, chasing impossible questions. Why do they say it was destroyed? Why does this ship respond to me like I belong here? And what do they mean by we destroyed it, if it's still flying? The AI had been silent since the encounter, as if respecting the weight of the moment. It spoke, softly, carefully. You are not the first human to awaken the blade. Talon stiffened. What? Admiral Lael was not alone. The blade was never designed as a solitary command. It was one of 3 vessels, forged from the remnants of Earth's final war council. 3? You're saying there are others? Talon asked. Other ships like this? Correct. The Ascendant Blade, the Rift Warden, and the Silent Choir. The names hit him like forgotten memories echoing through time. Beautiful. Terrible. Final. And where are they? Unconfirmed, the AI replied. Last known trajectories, deep void sectors. Purposefully hidden, scattered to prevent unified capture. Each vessel contained 1/3 of the war archive. So if someone recovered all 3, they'd have everything, Talon whispered. Tactics, AI, weapons, they could remake the war machine. Or unmake it, the AI offered. The blade has always followed its captain's will. He rose to his feet, feeling the tension in his shoulders. We need to find them, before the Zaldrun do. They're already searching, the AI said. They have been for decades. And then it played a file, one not meant for his ears. It was intercepted, a Zaldrun war meeting. Grainy, from an old scout drone that hadn't survived its mission. The humans left 3 keys, hissed one Zaldrun warlord. We found the coordinates for the Warden, but lost it to a rogue empire. The choir was buried in a collapsing star system. And now, the blade has reemerged. The old ghosts stir. If even one ship bonds with a true human, the galaxy changes. Another Zaldrun growled. We must ensure they never unite, even if we must burn whole sectors. They knew. They've been chasing these ships for centuries. And Talon had just lit a beacon with the first one. Suddenly, alarms flared again. Unidentified signal. Approaching from the far side of the Karthus expanse. Subspace signature. Human. Derelict. Damaged. Talon leaned over the console. Another Earth ship? Unlikely. The tech is hybrid. Human and something else. He magnified the image. It was a broken frigate, smaller than the blade, sleek and silver black, drifting with sparks trailing from its starboard side. But something about its curvature, its etched writing along the hull. It was earthen design at its core, but it had alien enhancements welded into its sides. Is it broadcasting? Talon asked. Yes. One repeated phrase. Don't let the choir sing. His blood ran cold. The silent choir. The phrase was likely code, but it was also a warning. He opened a comm channel, broadcasting toward the wreck. This is Talonvire. I found the blade. Who are you? The reply came through with static and coughing. A woman's voice. You're human? Not AI, not simulation. I'm real, Talon said. And you? She exhaled. Lieutenant Marash. I served on the Rift Warden until we were ambushed. I escaped. Barely. Talon leaned forward. The Warden still exists? No, she said softly. Not anymore. The Zaldrun took it. They've been trying to crack its core AI for years. I sabotaged the final encryption and escaped. But they'll keep trying. Talon's stomach turned. One of the three ships is already in enemy hands. She kept speaking. They're using it to triangulate the choir's signal. I overheard it, a mind that sings to the void. They think it's not just a ship. They think the choir has a consciousness of its own, not just an AI, a living mind. The implications were terrifying. What do you need from me? Talon asked. Extraction, she said, voice shaking. My ship's reactor's shot. I can't make another jump. Send me your coordinates. I'll get you. He guided the blade carefully through the dust fields, maneuvering past collapsed rock debris and ion storms. Mara's ship came into view, smaller than expected, listing on its axis like a dying bird. Docking was delicate, but when she stepped aboard the blade, bruised, limping in a tattered flight suit, something shifted. The ship responded to her, not like it did to Talon, but almost like it remembered her. The lights brightened. The AI said, Lieutenant Maravish. Confirmed. Warden-class clearance. Welcome aboard. Talon blinked. You're really one of them. I was, she said. Now I'm just trying to stop what's coming. What is coming, he asked. She hesitated, then pointed toward the map. The choir isn't hidden anymore. It's awakening. It's calling to the others. That's what the signal is. Talon's eyes widened. You mean the choir is alive? She nodded. It's been alone for too long. And if the wrong mind answers it first, it might not care who its creators were. They stood together, staring at the glowing star chart. A new dot flickered near the edge of the galaxy. Unknown system. Ancient beacon pulsing once every 17 seconds. A signal that hadn't been heard in over 600 years. The choir was singing, and every power in the galaxy had just turned to listen. The ascendant blade hurled itself across the stars, weaving through collapsing gravitational wells and ancient minefields as it closed in on the beacon. Talon stood at the command console, his fingers dancing across the interface. Every kilometer closer, the AI's tone grew tenser, like the ship itself remembered what it once was, what it had lost, and what waited ahead. The signal came from a derelict moon orbiting a dead star, surrounded by shattered asteroids that glowed faintly with blue-white remnants of ancient shields. In the center, a void pocket, artificial in shape. No light, no sound, just space that swallowed everything. Mara stared through the main viewport. It's here. The choir. Talon asked. She nodded. Or what's left of it. The AI confirmed it. Signal strength increasing. Psychic echo patterns detected. Resonant frequency matches lost Earth design. Singularity class, conscious core. Talon whispered, it's not just a ship. It's awake. But they weren't alone. The first enemy ships arrived in formation. Zaldrun spear-tipped frigates with bone-white hulls and purple plasma cannons. Behind them, heavier destroyers, their engines roaring with stolen human technology. And trailing them, like a corrupted god, came the Rift Warden. Talon's breath caught. He knew it instantly. The core hull was Earth-made, sleek angles and dark alloy. But alien claws had torn it open and restructured it. The AI systems were cracked and warped, and the human design pulsed now with a sickly green glow. They twisted it, Mara whispered, her voice shaking. They desecrated her. And they weren't just here to stop them. They were here to feed the choir. Zaldrun hypothesis, the AI explained grimly. If choir awakens fully, it may override itself with the most dominant psychic input nearby. Talon's eyes widened. You mean they wanted to bond with them? They mean to corrupt it, Mara said, stepping forward. It's why they kept the Warden alive as a host. They don't just want the choir's power, they want to possess it. And once they did, no power in the galaxy could stop them. Talon made the decision. We go in. We reach the choir first. We wake it our way. The AI hesitated. If it rejects you, it won't, Talon said. It knows us. It was built by us. It's lonely. Mara looked at him, eyes fierce. Then let's bring the song home. The blade plunged toward the moon, cutting past the first wave of enemy fire. Talon ordered countermeasures, flares, jammers, a quantum mist field. The blade flickered like a ghost, vanishing between bursts of light. But the Warden came. A massive beam, green-tinted with warped human tech, lanced toward them, clipping their left side. Shield screamed. The blade buckled, but held. Talon gritted his teeth. "Get me close." Mara's hands danced across the controls. "We'll have one shot." The void field parted, and there it was, the silent choir. It wasn't a ship like the others. It was an orb, suspended above the moon like a pearl within obsidian. Its surface rippled like water, but shone like glass. Symbols moved across its skin, earth letters mixed with alien glyphs. It hummed, not through speakers, through mind. Talon felt it before he heard it, a sorrowful note that lingered behind the eyes. It didn't speak. It sang, a low, haunting tone that vibrated through bone and memory. Mara fell to one knee. "It's calling us." But the warden had followed them into the field. The corrupted ship fired again, this time with focused precision. The blade dodged barely, but debris slammed into their side. Internal fires sparked. The AI barked warnings. Multiple hull breaches. Life support dropping. Internal reactor instability. Talon didn't hesitate. Diverted all power to the interface. "I'm going in." Mara grabbed his arm. "You can't. If it doesn't accept you, it will." He sprinted toward the forward launch bay, where the choir's light shimmered like a mirage through the broken shield gate. One last leap. One last gamble. The choir didn't have a door, but when Talon reached out with his hand, a seam opened. Not metal, not code, like light peeling away for something it recognized. He stepped inside, and the world vanished. He stood in a chamber with no walls. A starfield stretched infinitely, and a faint choir of voices echoed around him. Memories, his memories, floated in light particles. His father, his home, earth burning, the first time he held a wrench. The day he fixed a child's broken air filter on a frontier colony. The day he found the blade. A voice entered his mind. Not words, but music formed into meaning. "Human, are you mine?" Talon spoke aloud. "I'm no one's possession, but I am yours if you'll have me." The choir pulsed. Silence hung, like the space between notes in a song. So long we have waited. So many minds came. So many screamed. "You sing." Talon fell to his knees as light engulfed him. On the ascendant blade, Mara watched as the choir ignited. It glowed from within, bright, blinding, and then it sang. The void shivered. The Zaldrun fleet reeled. Ships twisted. Pilots screamed as their minds were overwhelmed by pure, unfiltered emotion. Loss, hope, fire, defiance. The warden convulsed mid-flight. Its corrupted system sparked. Its engines roared uncontrollably. And then it turned. Its weapons aimed at the Zaldrun fleet. Mara gasped. He's in control. He did it. The choir had accepted Talon, not just as a captain, but as its heart. With a thought, the choir beamed raw code into the blade and the remains of the warden. A triad. The three ships, one fallen, one restored, one reborn, turned as one. Together, they unleashed devastation. The choir's weapon wasn't plasma or kinetic. It was resonance. Each pulse shattered reality around enemy ships. Time twisted. Space rippled. The Zaldrun ships blinked out of existence like they'd never been born. The warden, free of its captors, fired righteous fury, obliterating the remaining destroyers. The ascendant blade, now whole, repaired, empowered, moved like lightning, cutting through the last line of defense. And Talon stood at the heart of the choir, shining with borrowed light. Mind linked to a ship that was alive. The war was over in minutes. The battlefield was silent. Mara opened a channel. "Talon, are you still?" His voice came back, calm, different, almost harmonic. "I'm here." What happens now?" There was a pause. And then, "We sing." 3 days had passed since the final note of the battle faded into the black. And yet, across the shattered moons of the Zaldrun frontier, the resonance still echoed, a whisper of harmony that refused to die. In orbit above the silent world, the choir hovered like a second moon, no longer dormant, no longer alone. At its core, Talon stood bathed in the same ambient glow that had once threatened to dissolve him entirely. But he was still whole. More than whole. He was heard. The choir hadn't consumed him. It had listened, And more than that, it had learned. It remembered Earth. It remembered humans. Their courage. Their loneliness. Their music. Most of all, it remembered what Talon had said inside its soul. We're broken, but we fix things. That's what we do. Mara watched from the deck of the Ascendant blade, now fully restored, smoother, sleeker, and humming with newfound life. Choir-forged plating had reinforced its hull. Its systems now interfaced with thought as easily as with touch. It was still her ship, but now it was also his. She leaned forward in the captain's chair, watching Talon's silhouette move through a shimmering hallway inside the choir. He looked like he was walking through a memory. "Status?" she asked the AI. "Stabilized. Choir interface is complete. Human presence within central control has not degraded." She smiled faintly. "Of course not. He's got a stubborn kind of soul." Talon emerged again from the central nexus of the choir's memory vault, where data from 1,000 fallen civilizations had slumbered. "I found it," he said softly to Mara through the mind link they now shared. "I found the first song." "What do you mean?" He gestured to the chamber behind him, projecting a view. It wasn't code. It wasn't blueprints. It was music, a melody composed by a child on Earth, long before the choir was even constructed. The AI that would become the choir had been seeded with humanity's hopes, their culture, their sadness, their drive. Before it was even born, the choir had been lonely. Talon had given it a voice. Now, it sang softly across the stars. The galaxy felt it. Across systems both known and forbidden, ships halted mid-jump. Stations blinked with static. Telepaths awoke from restless dreams with tears in their eyes. A signal, ancient and pure, unfurled from the dead frontier. "We are still here. We remember you. We forgive you. We welcome you home." The message didn't come from governments or warships. It came from something older, something once lost. And the response was awe. In the days that followed, Mara and Talon began to understand what they'd truly found. The choir wasn't a weapon. It was a preserver, the last attempt of the early human diaspora to leave something behind in case they were wiped out. Not data, not soldiers, not vengeance. A soul, a machine meant to feel and remember, to find voices worth saving and sing them into eternity. But no one had come. No one until him. "You're not going to stay in there forever, are you?" Mara asked one evening, her voice faintly teasing, faintly hopeful. Talon chuckled as he stepped onto the blade again, for the first time in days. He looked older somehow, wiser, quieter, but his hands still bore grease under the nails. He still carried the same worn wrench in his belt. "Nah," he said. "Choir's got a hell of a playlist now. It can run itself." She raised an eyebrow. "You turn the galaxy's most powerful psychic relic into a DJ?" He smirked. "Well, it kept asking what a bass drop was." They both laughed, genuine, bright, the sound echoing through the silent halls. Together, they brought the blade to the diplomatic rings of the neutral systems. Not with threats, with gifts. The choir had replicated clean energy systems, faster-than-light comms, and new shield tech from a dozen fallen species, and it offered them freely, under one condition. No empire, no exploitation, only shared harmony. And when skeptics asked why, Talon answered simply, "Because fixing the broken stuff is what we do. We're human, but not everyone's celebrated." Deep in the recesses of the void, other Zaldran warlords stirred, afraid, envious, furious. The choir had chosen a human. The choir had healed. And the idea that something ancient and powerful would love such a fragile, dirt-born species? To them, that was heresy. One warlord broadcast a final message to the stars. "You think your song has ended war? You've only struck the first chord in a greater symphony. We will teach your choir to scream." Talon heard it, and he nodded, not in fear, but in understanding. He tapped the edge of the blade's console and said, "Let them come." Later, as they watched a new dawn break over a liberated colony, Mara turned to him. "What do you think it meant back there when the choir said it had been waiting?" Talon looked at the sky, and then he said something he'd never told anyone. "When I was a kid, I used to hear music in my dreams. But not Earth music. It was too big, too sad, too alive. I always thought I was broken. She watched him, breath catching. You think it was calling you? He nodded. I think I was part of it before I even knew what it was. She slipped her fingers into his. And now, he smiled. I think we're finally part of something bigger. The choir sang on. And in every corner of the galaxy, something ancient stirred. Not in anger, but in hope. Humanity had always feared being forgotten. But now, because one mechanic listened when no one else would, they never would be. Time moved differently after the choir awoke. Years passed like breaths, silent and quick. But history thundered. Talon Juno's name spread like a star flare across the galactic archives. Not just as the human who found the choir, but as the one who repaired it, who taught a broken machine how to sing again. And through that act, something shifted in the soul of the universe. He hadn't meant to start a movement, but he had. They called it the Harmony Accord, a coalition of fringe worlds, alien refugees, forgotten AI, and small rebel systems that rejected war but had no banner of their own. Now they did. The choir became more than a ship. It became a symbol, a sanctuary, a school, a shrine. Ships docked at its outer rings, not with torpedoes, but with offerings, music, art, memories, languages almost extinct. The choir stored them all. It sang them. Mara Quell captained the Ascendant Blade still, though it no longer flew solo. She led peacekeeping missions for the Accord, dismantling pirate fleets and rogue AI factions that tried to silence what had been born. They called her the Blade of the Ballad, and at her side always was Talon. Though sometimes he'd vanish for days, walking inside the choir's endless echoing halls, speaking with voices that hadn't existed in millennia. Not ghosts, just remnants. Whispers. He always came back with new scars, but also new songs. At first, the greater empires scoffed at the human choir cult. But then came the Echo Uprising. Zaldrun worlds, once thought ironclad, began to fracture from within. Their youth had heard the choir's broadcast. They'd stopped believing their ancestors were gods and started believing maybe humans were right, that healing was possible, that kindness didn't mean weakness. They painted Talon's wrench on their walls. They lit candles and played old Earth songs. In one world, they translated an ancient Terran graffiti onto a battle flag. We fix what others break. Still, peace never comes without cost. One day, a weapon detonated over choir space. No origin, no warning. It wasn't nuclear. It wasn't kinetic. It was memory-based, a black hole for thought. Choir's song faltered. Talon collapsed. For 6 hours, silence ruled the stars. And then a single Earth melody played. A lullaby. Not just from the choir, but from the blade, from Talon's ship tools, from old salvaged Terran tech across the galaxy. Humanity's junk, their scraps, their trash, their stories, they sang. And Talon woke. I'm not done yet, he whispered. He wasn't. Later, on the bridge of the blade, Mara watched him stare out at the stars. They're afraid of you now, she said. Even the big ones. The Asceni hierarchs. The WYRM collectives. The old machines. They don't understand why the choir picked a human. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he held out something. A spark plug. Rusty. From Earth. I found this in the choir's archive. Deep in the back. Marked with coordinates for Sol. You know what this is? No. It's the first piece of human tech the choir ever saved. Not for its function, but because some kid carved a heart into it. Mara looked at him. Talon smiled, tired and infinite. Love is what made us. Not conquest. Not war. That's what they'll never understand. Centuries later, when empires had collapsed and stars had burned down to cinders, children on distant worlds still learned the story. Of the strange ship that sang in dead space. Of a human with grease-stained hands who walked into its heart. Of how he spoke softly when all others shouted, and the choir listened. There were myths, of course, that he never aged, that he became part of the choir, that his voice could calm storms or reboot dying suns, that his last words before vanishing into the stars were, "Keep singing." In the ruins of a forgotten outpost, far beyond charted space, a scavenger once uncovered a plaque. Its letters were Old Terran, but preserved in nanoglass, untouched by time. It said, "Human, don't stop." The scavenger didn't understand what it meant, but when he picked it up, his radio whispered. Just once. A single note. A melody. And he wept. In the end, the universe didn't remember Earth for its wars. Not for its mistakes. Not for its fall. It remembered one thing. That when everything else had given up, a human fixed the song. The end. Unknown warship detected in deep space. It's human, and it's built to conquer. Full story complete at 6,000 words across 6 sections. If you'd like a continuation, a sequel, or want to convert this into a YouTube video script, just say the word. Wounded but intact. The others hesitated. He could feel their confusion. Fear. That was his moment. Broadcast this to all open channels, he said, staring straight ahead. This is Talonvire. Human, you fired on me first. I have no intention of war. But if you bring it, I won't run. The remaining 2 ships jumped away, gone in a blur of light. Talon collapsed back into the chair, shaking. He'd won. Or maybe he just sent the galaxy a message no one was ready for.